Hello and welcome to the 2018 NHL Playoff Preview Show here on CUTV. I'm your host, Anthony D'Agostino, and alongside me today is my good friends and colleagues, Danny Beck and Stephen Ruffing. Guys, great to have you on the set. It's like high school roundup, but
exactly
an
like
hour long and all talking about the NHL playoffs. Some of the best sports moments of the year happens in these few months.
Oh yeah, it's good to have the old trio back.
Yeah, it's like the dynamic duo over here, you know, like what you were talking about with high school roundup. But talking hockey now.
Yeah, talking hockey. You got you leading the way, and then us two just making you look pretty.
That's exactly what it is. And hopefully one of you guys, or Colin Kirkwood, he has classes, so he couldn't be on the show today. We wanted him to be here, just couldn't make it. But hopefully one of you guys steps up and takes the show on next year, as Zach Prosva did with me. But we're going to get right into it, and we're going to reveal to you guys the bracket that was released last night from the NHL. So here's the bracket, and guys, what do you think?
Some pretty interesting matchups there.
You know, the East, I always think the East is a little more competitive, and I think this really kind of shows it because you have the number one team, Preds, obviously. They're playing the Avalanche. You know, it's just, I think the East is just far more competitive. I mean, what matchups you have there? New Jersey and Tampa Bay. I mean, New Jersey can easily do some damage. Boston and Toronto. Toronto's this young team. A lot of competition. Of course, the rough guys in Columbus taking on the skill at Washington, and then you have the Battle of Pennsylvania down there. This is just a heck of a bracket for the East specifically, but even the West, you know, it's still there. You know, I just think the East is a little more competitive.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in the East, you know, that Toronto and Boston matchup, that's intriguing for me, just looking on the outside. But also the West, it kind of seems like a few teams really stick out. You mentioned Nashville, also with Vegas, too. They kind of look like they're going to have a path to success.
Right.
In the East, it looks like they're going to have to make their way.
The East, it's going to be, you know, competitive, and you know, you're going to be drawn in from round one to the Stanley Cup Finals. The West, I think it's going to take a couple rounds before you start seeing that, you know, real competitiveness, you know, these huge teams going at each other.
Well, New Jersey, during winter break, they actually were the number one team in the NHL for a while, and then they fell off a little bit. The Capitals actually beat them to take the number one spot, and then they lost a few times. Braden Holtby hit a slump, and then Nashville just came in and took the President's Trophy away, but we all know what happens when you win the President's Trophy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they took it away from multiple. They took it away from the Caps. They took it away from Lightning. They took it away from Boston, who made a little late run there. I mean, Nashville coming in, you know, of course you have that President's Trophy curse, but they're standing pretty good over there in the West.
They most definitely are, and that's what I think. You said it best with the East. The East looks like it's one of those grinded out sides of the bracket. In the West, it kind of looks like it's going to take a little bit. As I mentioned, those few teams that are really, you know, that looks like they're pretty strong. You know, going up against matchups in the first round that you might think they have an easier way to get past them. But then when if Nashville and Vegas have to play, you know, later on, that's when we're going to be seeing that good gritty hockey.
We're going to jump into the Central Division side in the Western Conference. We have some players to watch, and we're going to start with the number one seed, Nashville Predators there. You're going to see the bracket, Nashville versus Avalanche. Avalanche a wild card spot, the number 2 wild card spot. The Jets taking on the Wild. Great to see the Jets in the playoffs. So we're going to start now looking at our players to watch with the Avalanche versus the Preds. Danny, we're going to start with you. Who is your player to watch for the Nashville Predators?
I said PK Subban right there. You see on their screen. He has a presence on defense, but also he has 43 assists this season. And in the past 5 games, he has 3 assists. So I see him more. He plays in the offensive side as well, and you know, both sides of the game. You know, that's a well-rounded player, and I think that's why he's my player to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting these assists. He's like those heavy shots from the point. He's not looking for a goal. He's looking for contact, and he does a great job of that. New team, new environment. I think he has, obviously it showed a better chance for him. Montreal not even making the playoffs, and then him coming over to Nashville. It's a great opportunity for him. What a presence he is on this ice. So that's a great pick for you.
Steve, we're going to jump over to you. Who is your pick? And I know who it is. And ooh, I'm still mad he's with the Predators and not with Washington.
Well, you know, I Philip Forsberg. Heck of a season from this young guy. I have a lot of young guys throughout my picks because they're going to make some noise. Philip Forsberg is one of them. He's, I think, like 24 years old, had a killer season this year. He's paired up, you know, with some good guys. You know, Turris on that team, new team for Turris, but you know, he has RV on there with him. But Philip Forsberg, this young guy, leading the team in points at the end of the season. He went on an absolute tear. So he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. But unfortunately, like last season during the playoffs, he kind of went down a little bit. He had a good season, but this year I think this is his time to shine. He needs to. He's going to be leading the way for this Predator team.
And you're talking about young guys too, in the entire NHL. That was really the script this entire season. Young guys leading the NHL in multiple different categories. So that's a good pick there with Phil Forsberg.
Moving on to my pick, for the first time today, a goalie is making the players to watch. Pekka Rinne tore up the goalie crease last season for the Predators, especially throughout the series, but against Pittsburgh too for the Stanley Cup final. That was a goalie battle, and Pekka Rinne did a heck of a job. This season, he's got 42 wins, 92.7% save percentage, and a 2.31 goals against average, which is just spectacular for him. And last year, like I said, he was a key factor for the Predators. And I think that's going to stay a key factor for the Predators this playoff run.
Right, and this Predators team, they put up some numbers. They kind of scraped by during the postseason, but that's thanks to Pekka Rinne.
Yeah.
This guy was unstoppable. Unfortunately, he let a few pass. The Penguins got in his head last year, and that's how the Penguins won. But Pekka Rinne, as far as I'm concerned, they made the Stanley Cup just because this guy put that team on his shoulders.
Yeah, and get used to seeing a few goalies because I have a bunch of different goalies.
Big goalie guy over here.
So just get used to seeing a few of those goalies on the list.
Moving over now to the Avalanche side of things. Again, they're taking on the Predators. They're the wild card spot. Great to see the Avalanche finally back in the playoff hunt because a few years ago they were at club bottom, as we like to call them. But Danny, who is your player to watch for the Colorado Avalanche?
Pick Nathan MacKinnon, and the reason why, just because of the fact that he helped his team go from club bottom last season and improve by 47 points, a Hart Trophy candidate in Nathan MacKinnon. And that's why I think that he's going to help his team out, just because of the fact that he's that scoring presence out there for the Avalanche, and that's going to push them up. I don't think that they're going to get past Nashville, but I don't want to look too far ahead. But
it's a great stepping stone for him.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. So,
Steve, your pick for Colorado?
Yeah, it was tough to not go with Nate MacKinnon, but I got another young guy, Mikko Rantanen, 21 years young. This guy is, and he's right underneath MacKinnon in points. So I think this is a great chance for him to make some noise. You have the young guns; he's on a wing. You have MacKinnon playing center. These guys are a bang-bang duo, so they could do some damage. Maybe not this year, but in the coming years. But I think Rantanen, if he keeps up what he's been doing during the season, he could help MacKinnon lead this Colorado Avalanche maybe out of the first round.
For me, I am going to pick the same as Danny Beck. I think Nathan MacKinnon is a key factor. 97 points this season, 58 assists, 37 goals for him, 12 game-winning goals. And that's key. You got to be able to, if you're a guy that gets those game-winning goals, that translates to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Best of 7 series, you're looking at a good chance.
And how important are those game-winning goals? How many times you see these games going to overtime, double overtime, no shootouts, and this guy's there. He's their guy for those game-winning goals. I wonder what they put in the water over there in Thunder Bay. Sidney Crosby coming out of there, Nate MacKinnon coming out.
Well, he's also got 12 power play goals, so he's a key factor on the power play too, which is important, especially in the playoffs there, because power plays can make and break games. We've seen some controversial calls with goalie interference and whatnot in these past few playoffs, so power plays are important.
They're important because really on a normal playoff game, you see very few power plays. They let a little more things go, so those hairy calls you see during the season, you might not see, as the postseason goes on. So that's a huge factor with Nate MacKinnon getting out there on the power play.
Well, we're going to go to the bottom side of that Central Division bracket now. And Danny, who is your player to watch now for that side of the bracket?
I got Connor Hellebuck, and that was the Jets,
the Jets,
obviously. So I think this, I don't know why, I just feel like this matchup is going to be one of the less interesting matchups with the Jets and the Wild. And I think that's why it's going to be a goalie battle. I also picked another goalie. I don't want to look too far ahead either. But I picked another goalie for the other side just because of the fact that I think that these teams are really going to have to grind it out. And it's going to be low scoring, if anything. And that's why, the microscope's going to be really on these goalies in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg's a hard-hitting team. The Wild, they like to score, so it's going to be an interesting battle between the two.
And Steve, who is your pick for Winnipeg?
It was tough. I was balancing between Blake Wheeler, because I'll talk a little more about him in a little bit, but I decided to go with Mark Scheifele. He has had a killer season this year, out of nowhere, just lighting it up towards the end of the season for Winnipeg. He's been a huge factor of why they've been so successful. But Blake Wheeler, having him come out here during the season, I'm just on the, kind of on the fence of who I wanted to pick. But just talk about Blake Wheeler for 90 points. Blake Wheeler had this season. The most points that Blake Wheeler has ever had, 78 points. 90 points this season, but he's going to be another big factor. Mark Scheifele, he's my guy to watch. I think he could tear it up.
For me, I'm picking one of my favorite players from Hershey. He got traded from the Capitals to Winnipeg, Matthew Perreault. Guy, lovely man bun he's got there too. Didn't have that in Washington. But he doesn't have some great stats, but he's a hustler. And he follows the puck where it's going, and he's a great centerman. So I think he's one of those off-the-bench kind of guys that Winnipeg needs in terms of that team morale, if you will, that hustle guy that's always on the ice, putting in 110% effort no matter what time of day it is.
Yeah, Perreault brings a lot to the table for Winnipeg. He's a great fit. He is a fantastic fit for that Winnipeg team. He's that hard-nosed player. He puts in the work. That sums up this Winnipeg Jets team.
And Danny, we're going to move to the other side of the bracket. Your goalie situation for the
Yep.
Minnesota Wild. Who you picking?
Switch right back, Devin Dubnyk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we were talking about before with the hard hitting, not
hard
knitting.
knitting.
Nobody's knitting.
Except the knitting lady behind the Penguins bench.
Hope
True.
nobody's knitting. But you're talking about the Wild scoring ability, and on that other side, they like to push up the ice.
Yep.
When they fall back, Devin Dubnyk's going to be under the microscope yet again, and that's why I picked Devin Dubnyk.
Steve, who are you picking for the Minnesota Wild?
See, this was an interesting pick for me. The Wild bring a lot to the table. Eric Stahl just having a fantastic finish to the season. Again, I just wasn't sure who I wanted to decide to pick, but then Zach Parise came to my mind. He's coming off a back surgery. Came late in the season. I believe he only fit 13 games in the season. That's the last 13 games.
Yeah.
He missed a majority of the season. He can come back. He wants something. The Wild are a team that they missed their opportunities in the playoffs, big time. And now, they have a decent team. They have a lot of talent. Eric Stahl, their first-line center. Zach Parise coming back. You have Ryan Suter backing up on defense. They can do some damage, and Winnipeg just stands in their way. But Zach Parise, I think he has a lot to prove, and he has to be an excited player right now.
Definitely. And Steve, you mentioned a player to watch for me, Eric Stahl.
Yep.
I picked as my player to watch
glad you
here
did.
because Eric Stahl is a key player. He's got 76 points, 42 goals for the team, which is huge for him. He's a great goal scorer, 11 power play goals, and he also has 17 points on the power play as well. And I just think, with Steve, your player to watch there, Eric Stahl brings a lot to the table for Minnesota. As long as the Bruce Boudreau curse is not alive and well in Minnesota still, Minnesota's got a good chance at least to get past the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back as we take a look at the Eastern, not the Eastern Conference. So we're going to take a look at the Pacific side real quick. And actually, we're not going to take a break. We're going to do that right now. I got myself a little mixed up there. We just finished up the Central side. So, Gary, throw up that Pacific bracket there. The Vegas Golden Knights, the #1 seed in the Pacific Division there, going up against the LA Kings, and then the Ducks versus the Sharks. Danny, we're going to start with you. Who do you like from the brand new team, the Vegas Golden Knights?
Well, I like a few players on this Vegas Golden Knights team. But Wild Bill, William Karlsson, I'm going to go with him. And, just because of the fact he's third in the NHL with 43 goals, so he's a goal-scoring machine. He also has a lot around him, too, on defense and on offense. I was saying it was kind of tough to pick one player out there for Vegas. But William Karlsson, he's my guy for Vegas, and I think that he's gonna help him go deep this year.
And sorry, I mean, I picked the same exact thing.
You picked the same guy. That's why I looked at you like that. What
So
do you have to say about him?
I'll pick it up. William Karlsson, 25 points last year with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Totally, they did not utilize him whatsoever. The reason why I think Vegas is doing so well, you have guys like Wild Bill that come into this new team have so much to prove. These guys got the
boot. They got the boot.
They got the boot.
Teams, yeah.
So they have so much to prove. It's like a take that moment for William Karlsson. 75 points, if I have it down, 78 points this year compared to his 25 last season. That is a complete, or no, his highest was 25, which was, or I believe 28 and 25 he had last year. Complete 180. And if he continues to do this, he's actually up for the goal of the year if you saw that right through the legs on that breakaway. If he could do things like that in the playoffs, this guy should be everyone's player to watch.
He's hot. He's definitely hot.
And the reason why I thought we were moving on to the East is my player to watch, another goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury, Stanley Cup winning goalie with the Pittsburgh Penguins. People thought he was the franchise goalie for them. Ended up going three times Stanley Cup champion. You're right. Marc-Andre Fleury there. And he's been lights out for Vegas, especially when he hasn't been injured. I think, again, that playoff experience for Marc-Andre Fleury is going to help Vegas in terms of keeping the goals against them on the low side.
Yeah, and you said that the playoff experience, that has to play a huge part, especially with the young team and a lot of young players, too, on that team, scattered throughout. But, yeah, it's when it seems like Marc-Andre Fleury can't get it, he gets it. And that's one of those X factors. That was a great pick with Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, and the only thing that worries me, I mean, he's a great regular season guy, but as a Penguins fan, a lot of people, gave him some stick, during the postseason. Maybe underperforming, but the guy is a leader of men, and he's going to be a great one to watch. I'm excited to see him play.
Without a doubt.
Definitely, and possibly chance that he could play against Pittsburgh,
which
in
would
the
be
Stanley Cup final.
I don't think any hockey fan is ready for that series. I don't think any hockey fans that lucky to get a series like that.
Moving on to the next team, he'll playing against Vegas. Danny, who's your pick for the LA Kings?
I got Dustin Brown due to the fact that he set a career high in points with 61. The Kings are also 85% on penalty kill this year. And Dustin Brown, I think he's just one of those guys out there for the Kings that could really wreak some havoc out there on the ice. And he's one of my X factors.
Yeah. Steve, your pick for the LA Kings, the same as my pick.
Yeah, and we're going to jump on defense for this one. The first defender I think I have on my list is Drew Doughty. You talk about that playoff experience. This guy, a Stanley Cup champion, another leader of men for this LA Kings team. I mean, he just stands out to me. He's been on a tear the last 5 games, putting up some tremendous numbers. He's one of those all-around defenders like P.K. Subban, your earlier pick for Nashville. He reminds me a lot of P.K. Subban. He's a hustler. He puts pucks on net. He draws contact. He's just a playoff guy, and that's why I have him.
And for the same reason you do, he's a defenseman. He's one of the better defensemen, but he also gets points on the board, and for himself anyways, by assists. He's got 50 assists so far this season and has 20 power play points. So it's getting the assists as well as the goals on the power play for Drew Doughty. And I think he's huge for LA. Their defense with Vegas's offense, they need to be stout on defense. And Drew Doughty definitely helps with that. Danny, we're going to move to the next side of the bracket. Who do you have for
Anaheim?
Anaheim, that's right. They're playing the Sharks.
Anaheim and the Sharks.
San Jose had the same seeding last year. They were the number 3 seed.
Yeah, I went with another goalie-friendly matchup. I went with John Gibson for the Anaheim Ducks, and it's the same kind of situation before. I kind of think that I kind of picked the goalies in a situation where I couldn't really pick anybody else on the entire team. So, with that being said, I just think that it's going to come down to the goalie matchup with him and the other side. I don't want to look too much ahead for San Jose, but that's why I picked John Gibson.
Yeah. And Steve, you didn't pick a goalie, but you picked one that I was looking at.
Yeah. Ryan Getzlaf is a guy that has been around for so long. He's had a taste of this playoffs for a few times, and he's a big body. He likes to get in front of the net. He's going to give a lot of teams trouble throughout the way we'll go with our picks later on in the show. But the reason I kind of have Anaheim getting out of the first round is strictly because of Ryan Getzlaf, his veteran experience, the way he gets his body in front of the net. The guy's not afraid to take a couple knocks here and there. Another leader of men. Ryan Getzlaf is a heck of a player, and he's going to be a fun one to watch.
Well, for me, I'm going to look at Ricard Raquel. There, 69 points for him, 18 power play points, 34 goals, and 35 assists. And with Ryan Getzlaf, Ricard Raquel definitely performing well for Anaheim. I think he can show himself again in the playoffs.
I agree. He had a standout season this year. He was one of those players where slow start, then he starts making some noise, and now you're going into the postseason just on fire. Really, Raquel has been a very impressive player, leading the team in points, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, just going to the playoffs with that much confidence, it's gonna be a good one to watch.
Danny, quickly moving into San Jose, who's your pick for the Sharks?
And I looked forward ahead in the last one, Martin Jones. It's going to be another goalie matchup, and I just think that his presence in net is really what you're going to have to look at. And you guys were talking about with Raquel and as well as Getzlaf, and these players are going to be under the microscope for you guys on offense. So figure on defense with Martin Jones.
Yeah, Martin Jones. I said it about Pecorino. I'll say it about him. He took the San Jose Sharks to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 seasons ago when the Pittsburgh Penguins won Stanley Cup.
Right.
But but he took them there. Penguins figured him out. They figured Pecorino out, but a lot of credit to him.
Steve, your pick for the San Jose Sharks?
I picked Thomas Hertl, another young guy. He really impressed me that Stanley Cup run they had in 2 seasons ago. He's a young guy. He can score goals. When he gets into the slot, he lets a wrister go. The guy can shoot the puck. So he's going to be a fun player to watch. He's fast. He has speed. He's physical. And the shots this guy gets off. Hertl is one of my favorite players to watch in the West in general. And now the postseason comes. He's a postseason player. And with Patrick Marleau moving over to Toronto Maple Leafs, little foreshadowing there. But without that playoff experience, Thomas Hertl, I think he's the next guy up. He's a great postseason player, and he could go on a little run.
For me, I looked at Logan Couture for the San Jose Sharks. See him right there, little nice beard and goatee there. 61 points, 34 goals, 21 power play points for Couture. So again, a factor on the power play for San Jose and a leader in points for the Sharks. And I really think that him, as well as Steve, your player to watch there, not Patrick Marleau, Thomas Hertl. Yeah. The foreshadowing you said there, but definitely is a factor there. Even on defense, Joe Thornton.
Yeah.
For San Jose.
Well, doesn't play defense.
Right, but
his back checking ability. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
Which is odd that he's not a defenseman, but he plays great defense, especially with his back checking ability, like you said. But that's going to do it now, finally, for the Western Conference. There, we got through the Central Division and the Pacific Division. When we come back from this break, we'll be looking at the Eastern Conference, starting with the Atlantic Division here on the 2018 NHL Playoff Preview Show on CUTV.
$150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Welcome back to the 2018 NHL Playoff Preview Show here on CTV. Once again, I'm your host, Anthony D'Agostino, alongside me, Danny Beck and Stephen Ruffin. Guys, we're going to get right into the Eastern Conference side of things. We're going to look at the Atlantic Division bracket. Now, as you see, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the #1 seed in the Atlantic Division. The Bruins could have been the #1 seed if they beat Florida in the final game of the regular season. They did not. They're the #2 seed, but the Lightning taking on the Devils in Game 1, in the first round, and then the Bruins taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs in the second side of the bracket there. Danny, we're going to go right into the players to watch. We'll dive into these brackets a little bit later, but who is your pick for the Lightning?
We were talking about in the break, Nikita Kucherov. 100 points for his team this season, 39 goals and 61 assists. He has 8 power play goals, but 28 power play assists. This guy is a machine, and that's really why I think that he's the player to watch in this series, and I think that that's what really is going to help them. They're going to need it against the Devils in the first game.
Yeah. The Devils are a scary team.
Yeah,
you
they
know,
are.
no pun intended. But but this Nikita Kucherov, what a guy he's been so far this season. So impressive. He's so fun to watch.
He's young, 24 years old.
Yeah,
too.
another young guy, and I really liked seeing him play. So it's a great pick on your hands.
But Steve, you have a different guy you want to watch for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Victor Hedman. You know, he is a playoff player again.
Yeah.
He's ended the season on a high note. He had 5 points in his last 5. Going into the postseason, he's a heavy hitter. You know, he can almost do it all. He has, you know, the playoff experience. He can put up the points. You know, he's an unusual pick on my part, but he's a good one. I think just the way he's been performing, you know, ending the season on such a high note, taking that in the postseason, a lot of confidence is there.
For me, I picked the same player Danny picked, Nikita Kucherov, for the same reason Danny picked him, the amount of points he has, 100 points. He has a plus 15 rating as well, which is just incredible to see, and 36 power play points for him. He's a huge factor, only 24 years old, which is just incredible that these young guys are performing so well. So Nikita Kucherov is one of my players to watch for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Danny, we're going to move to the New Jersey Devils. Who's your pick for the New Jersey Devils?
You know, I have to do it. Hart Trophy candidate, most likely Hart Trophy winner, Taylor Hall. He's one of those guys. He can score, and he played the Pens. I was at the Penguins game when they played against the Devils not too long ago, and he's one of those guys that just has a presence out there on the ice. He's one of those guys, he's a leader, similar to Sidney Crosby, really, for the Penguins on the ice. But, Taylor Hall, he's just one of those guys that I can see him doing well.
You know, talk about poetic justice with Edmonton Oilers trading him away, thinking that they won that trade, coming in, going for that Hart Trophy, tearing it up on the Devils' side, making the Stanley Cup playoffs. Edmonton, you know, unfortunately not being able to. Now imagine if McDavid had Taylor Hall on his line. The guy's easily putting up over 106 points. Ended up with. I mean, we're looking at 115, 120 points for Connor McDavid and 110 points for Taylor Hall.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, maybe fortunately, a little more action in the East. Taylor Hall coming in. That's a fantastic player to watch. He is a big ball of energy, and he's an electric player.
Steve, we're going to jump into your player to watch. Who is your player to watch there for the New Jersey Devils?
Again, these young guys. They're rookie. Their first-round pick, I believe, second overall.
I think he was first overall pick.
No. Philly had the first overall pick. They went with Nolan Patrick.
Okay.
And Nico Hischier, he was supposed to be,
the number one,
potential number 1 overall. And then Philly, didn't do a bad move. Nico Hischier, he had more points than Nolan Patrick, but Nolan Patrick still had a good season. But he's a guy, leading or second in points for the New Jersey Devils as a rookie. Second overall. That's my pick. A young guy. This is his chance. He wants to make a big name for himself. This is his opportunity in his first Stanley Cup playoffs appearance.
For me, I picked another well-known guy, Kyle Palmieri, for the New Jersey Devils. 5 game-winning goals for him this season, and I just think that veteran player on the ice is what you need, especially for the New Jersey Devils in this playoff series.
Yeah, because Taylor Hall, not much playoff experience. My pick, Nico Hischier, no playoff experience at all. So that's a great pick. They're going to be looking for him in a lot of situations for the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Danny, we're going to move now to your pick for the Boston Bruins. Who is your pick for the Boston Bruins?
I'm going with David Pastrnak, and just because of the fact that he is on a line, easily could be one of the best lines in hockey with Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron and David Pastrnak as well.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys, 35 goals, 45 assists, and 80 points on the season. He's an absolute monster out there, and he put some goals in the back of the net for Boston. That's what they're going to need too, because getting back, I mean, what we were talking about before with the Lightning stealing the #1 overall pick, or not pick, seeding. So kind of just maybe a matchup between those two. I'm not going to foreshadow a little bit.
Yeah, and you know what? Just two situations that I just right off the bat, the two Penguins teams. You have Lemieux, Yager, and Paul Coffey on the same team. You have Sid, Malkin, Phil Kessel. You know, there was some conversation, just these players on the same team. No one ever mentions these three guys. This could be another just triple threat on a team that really no one mentions. I just want to mention that they're not even in the same conversation as these big players, and I think they should. They have every right to be. They have a heck of a season. I think that conversation is going to change as it goes on.
Pastrnak played for the Providence Bruins a few times there. Saw him playing Hershey against them, and he definitely has talent wherever he plays. But Steve, your player to watch caused me some headaches because there was no headshots for him in the uniform for his professional team.
Yeah, well, it's not so much, when you guys say players to watch, you think of these, obviously these showstoppers, these players that come in, they're going to light it up. They're going to light it up. I kind of went a different route. I want to watch this guy, Ryan Donato, because he was on the USA Olympic team. He's this young guy. They picked him up off free agents after the Olympics. He's a very awesome story. They picked him up. I'm not 100% sure even when they picked him up, but it was late in the season, very, very late in the season. He had a few points, but the reason I want to watch him, because what a cool story this is. This guy has a chance to make a huge name for himself, playing on one of the best Boston Bruins teams in history, a potential Stanley Cup winning team, and this guy, off on that USA Olympic team, we all know how that went, that whole situation, but this guy has a perfect opportunity. He's my player to watch, and people are going to be watching him.
Definitely, and I picked the same guy Danny did, David Pastrnak, for the reason that I've seen him play before in Hershey against them with Providence. He's 80 points, like Danny said, 5 game-winning goals. He's a +10 rating, 45 assists, 13 power play goals. He knows how to score, and he knows how to feed the puck as well with 45 assists.
Yeah, and he gets to the spots on the ice that he can help his team win. I mean, we were talking about before with that triple threat like Steve was talking about. And, when you have those guys on that same line, equal goal scorers, that could wreak some havoc.
Looking at now their opponent, the Toronto Maple Leafs, gave the Washington Capitals some fits last season, I believe. They're going to give Boston some fits as well. Danny, who's your player to watch?
I went with Mitch Marner, and he doesn't get a lot of playing time on the ice. On that line, people are in the same conversation as Austin Matthews, but this guy doesn't get a lot of playing time. And, that's why I think of a dark horse. He's one of those guys that he can come on the ice and try to make a name for himself. You were talking about with your Devils pick, and he's just one of those guys that nobody was really looking at.
Led the team in points this year.
Yeah, so make a name for yourself, really.
Steve, you foreshadowed your player to watch for the Toronto Maple Leafs a little bit. Who you got?
I have Patrick Marleau. I talked about him when he was with San Jose. The only reason I picked him, he didn't have the best season, really at all, but he's that veteran guy, and this guy just turns it on in the playoffs. And we talked a little bit about this, Anthony. Toronto, it's almost that they needed that veteran presence. Last year they had, Austin Matthews, they had Mitch Marner, they had these young guys that took the Capitals to 7 games, and that is a lot to say. They were the President Trophy winners last year, and for these young guys to take them there, now throwing Marleau in the mix, he just turns it on in the playoffs, and that's why he's my player to watch.
You brought in Austin Matthews. He's my player to watch, but he was my player to watch last year, too. For a reason, he's a young guy. He scored a lot of points. Now he knows what the playoffs are like. He's been there. He's done it. He has it under his belt. He had 63 points in only 62 games. He would have led the team in points if he played more games. He has now a +25 rating on the season. That's the highest plus-minus rating that I've seen this season. So Austin Matthews is a huge key for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. If he does well, look out Boston.
He knows how to find the back of the net, too. I mean, obviously, it's evident.
This guy can be a headache to the Atlantic divisions for, 20 years to come if Toronto fans and media don't run him out of the country like they did with a certain player. And Dion Phaneuf, really.
Right,
Yeah. So, awesome. He's going to be a headache.
Moving on to the Metro bracket now. All of our favorite division in NHL. My team, the Capitals. Their team is the Penguins. Capitals taking on the Blue Jackets as a wild card seed. The Blue Jackets, the Penguins taking on the Flyers. A number 2 versus a number 3. The battle for Pennsylvania. But Danny, who is your player to watch for the Washington Capitals? And I think it's another goalie.
It is another goalie. And I don't know if they just released this today or
just today.
Yesterday. So I picked Braden Holtby.
Yeah.
However, Philip Grubauer would start. So
right.
But that's
can
not
change.
Bad
pick.
That can change quickly, though.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying Braden Holtby, because of the fact he had his worst save percentage this entire season with 90.7%. So if they put him in, he's going to have to prove himself, which is crazy to think that Holtby's going to have to prove himself in the playoffs. But, he's one of those guys that he has experience in the playoffs, too.
Really, it's not Holtby having to prove himself.
Yeah,
Grubauer is on such a short leash.
Yeah.
He, even towards the end of the season, if Grubauer had one bad game, you saw Holtby go right back in, no questions asked.
Yep.
But Grubauer just had such a strong, latter end of the, latter season that's why he got the start. He has one bad game against Columbus, which can be very possible. Columbus is a tough team. Grubauer's out. Holtby's right back in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation. This is where goalies, I think, is important for the playoffs because both players, Grubauer or Holtby, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to fare in the playoffs this year. Holtby's got to find his inner self and inner groove and get back into it like he has the past few seasons, or else it's going to be a quick exit for the Washington Capitals this year. But Steve, who is your player to watch for the Washington Capitals?
This guy impressed me a lot. This guy brings so much fire to the ice. Evgeny Kuznetsov. Of course, Ovechkin is the easy pick. What a shot of that mug.
Yeah, I know, right? What a head on.
Yeah, right. Evgeny Kuznetsov, he's a player that really impresses me all the time. He gives the Penguins a lot of trouble. He's been a thorn in the Penguins' side for quite some time now. Even in the playoffs, he's a playoff player again. I like these guys that, turn on this switch during the playoffs, and Evgeny Kuznetsov is one of those guys, and that's why my eyes are going to be on him.
Steve, I picked the same guy.
Yep.
A few years ago, I picked Evgeny Kuznetsov for the same reason. He's a magician with the puck. There are a few goals that he scored that I just don't know how he scored because the puck just ends up disappearing and then reappearing in the back of the net. I don't know how he does it. He's got 83 points, 56 assists, 8 game-winning goals, and 30 points on the power play.
Yeah, the guy is just this. He's this, another.
Maestro. He's a maestro.
Yeah, he is. That's what he is. He's this playmaker of all playmakers that makes the impossible happen.
Right. And Danny, for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who's your player to watch? This Columbus Blue Jackets team, I've been saying for 2 years now that they are here for a long run.
Yeah, and I went with the Breadman. I went with Artemi Panarin.
Right.
Just because he has a career high 82 points. And just because of the fact that they don't have a lot of elite scorers on their team, but he's one of the guys that really sticks out. Played the Pens hard this entire season.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the entire team played them hard. So it was kind of, just pick that one player that really stuck out, and that was Panarin to me.
Yeah, he's a guy, another kind of guy that's going into the playoffs looking for that take-that moment coming from the Chicago Blackhawks, who really dug themselves deep into a hole. They bought these guys for the long run, and then the cap space just came up quick with them. They had to get rid of Panarin. They got Brandon Saad back, I believe.
And that was a switch.
Yep.
They switched him back.
And Panarin just, lit it up. Take that.
Steve, your pick for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Who are you looking at?
This is one of my all-time favorite players in the Metro, Zach Werenski. And we're going to see him for a long time. He's another young guy, a young defenseman, and he is a future Norris Trophy winner. Easy. The guy is so good, 22 years of age, I believe. This is a guy, he's an absolute warrior on the ice. He could score. He could set plays up. He took that puck to the face during the Penguins.
That was unreal.
Yeah, Blue Jacket series. He came back onto the ice that game, I believe, but unfortunately he was out for the rest because that sucker, swelled up. Yeah, swelled up. Yeah, and he wasn't capable of playing. But the guy's an absolute warrior, future Norris winner, and high player to watch.
For me, I picked Seth Jones for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Seth Jones, you see there, 57 points, had a +10 rating this season, 41 assists, 4 game-winning goals, and 24 points on the power play. Seth Jones, in my opinion, a factor for this Columbus Blue Jackets team.
Yeah, Columbus has a fantastic defense, and they're here for the long run. You said this Columbus team, I think a lot of people have seen it from miles away.
I saw when the players on the former Lake Erie Monsters team, when they won the Calder Cup, when they moved up to Columbus, you just saw.
See.
I watched the Capitals game in Columbus, and I could just see the young players on that ice with so much talent that this team, whether or not they were going to make the playoffs that year, which they didn't, they made it the next year.
Right.
And now they made it
the
this
next year
again.
Yeah.
So the Columbus Blue Jackets team, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but they are here for a while until those players start moving away or getting traded.
Agreed.
We're now going to go to the battle for Pennsylvania. And Danny, Steve, and me all picked the same player. And I'm going to go first for the first time here.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This guy, 2-time Stanley Cup champion for the Pittsburgh Penguins, back to back.
Yep.
I don't think that's a coincidence that the Pittsburgh Penguins won a Stanley Cup back to back. Now, could they have won it without him? Possibly. I think it was a great candidate for the MVP of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Sidney Crosby won it.
Yep.
Don't think it was deserved, but Phil Kessel, 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins, 92 points this season, 35 goals, 58 assists, 12 power play goals, 42 points on the power play, and 6 game-winning goals.
42 points on the power play.
Yeah.
How unbelievable is that?
He's a monster. But I mean, you're talking about the assists too.
Yeah.
The way he passes the puck though is what I'm really focused on.
Every time this man got an assist, I always said he's an underrated passer. 58 assists. This guy's still an underrated passer. Yeah. People always look at his wicked wrister. I mean, his just absolute wicked wrist shot. But this guy loves to set the plays up just as much as he likes to score them. And I'm fully with you. There was, in my book, 4 players that could have won the MVP of the playoffs. It was Sidney Crosby, Malkin, Matt Murray, and Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel was my number 1. I think he kind of got snubbed on that one. Yeah. The guy absolutely tore it up. Another player that has played for something to prove, has demolished it, and he's still doing that. It's such a fun player to watch. I can't contain my enthusiasm for this guy because he's a playoff player. He loves to put these points up.
Yeah, and him on the line with Malkin too. The crafty passing, but then also the crafty stick handling of Malkin. It really sets them up on offense. You always, whenever you see him on that left side of the goal, might be seeing someone crash down, and then that's when just wrister, saucer, whatever over there, and hits it right in.
If I could kind of not change my pick, but since we have all the same one, throw another name out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Is Carl Hagelin.
Yeah,
Definitely. You could even throw it up between Sherry as well. Yeah. Sherry's had incredible end of the season. He was in a rocky spot there. But Hagelin, he started off the season terrible.
He's still quiet. He's still
terrible.
Quiet,
yeah. Not really, though. I don't have his stats right in front of me, but putting him on that Malkin line with Brian Rust, they have been just incredible together. Hagelin is playing his best hockey. He's playing nothing to lose hockey. This might potentially be his last season with the Penguins. Why not go out with a big bang? I think he needed some time there. Hagelin is going to be a huge player to watch. He's fantastic on the penalty kill. He can set up some fantastic goals. Just some of the passes that he's had to Malkin for some of these goals have been astonishing. It's not very often that Hagelin makes my jaw drop. He's done it multiple times in the past 10 games.
And also something to add with Hagelin, the hustle that he has.
Oh, yeah, so fast.
Yeah, it's exactly, because of the fact that not even on offense. also back-checking on defense, too, because he goes back there and he pressures a little bit, and then he comes off the ice and then somebody else comes out. But, you know, his pressure on offense, on defense, as well as pushing the puck towards the net, he's one of those guys that does it best for the Penguins.
Now looking at the team in the eastern side of the state, the Philadelphia Flyers. Danny, who's your pick for the Flyers to watch as they take on the Penguins?
I went Claude Giroux, and you know I got some slack for it because of the fact, oh, that's the only player everybody knows, whatever, Giroux. But he had 34 goals and 68 assists and 8 goals in the last 5 games. But I don't really see them doing much more with Giroux. I mean, the pressure that they have on offense going up against the Penguins, you know, that's going to be a tough task.
Yeah, Steve, your player to watch. You can't even see him.
Yeah, Ghost. It's his nickname there. It's like to call him Shane Gostisbehere, another defensive presence that, you know, he can tear it up, and he's going to give the Penguins some trouble.
And for me, I picked the same as Danny, Claude Giroux. He's a great guy on the ice. Don't have his stats in front of me, but Claude Giroux, a huge factor for the Philadelphia Flyers. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We're going to go through the brackets once more, talk about who we think is going to move on, who we think is going to win the entire Stanley Cup, and then look at our full bracket predictions via the NHL.com. So stick with us here on the 2018 NHL Playoff Preview Show on CUTV.
Oh, emojis. I thought the conversation just got dumber.
Ugh, internet trolls. Just ignore them.
I like you just the way you are.
I believe in you.
She's a hugger. Give her a squeeze.
Help up the hand.
Ah, there you go.
Thanks, mate.
You're killing it, Jane!
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Welcome back to the 2018 NHL Playoff Preview Show on CUTV, our last segment here. We're going to take a look at the brackets. We're going to start in the Western Conference here. Looking at the Central Division, guys, Preds, Avalanche, Jets, Wild. What do you like here about that first side of the bracket, Preds and Avalanche? Obviously, we think the Preds are going to move forward, but do the Avalanche have any chance against beating the Preds? And if so, how many games do you think it's going to take?
I think that it's going to be a decent matchup the first few games, and I think then Nashville is really going to jump out. So I'm going to pick the Preds in this matchup. I think the goal scoring for the Avalanche really has to come out. I think that they really have to show up in this contest, or Nashville is really going to flex their muscle.
Yeah, I have Nashville as well. I have them in 5 games. Colorado, they have a decent chance to win. You know, I kind of hope they prove me wrong.
Right.
You know, they're a team that did another complete 180. Nashville is going to give them a lot of trouble. They're a fierce team, and those 5 games, I could see it going more, but 5 games is just about right.
Well, Nashville was the wild card team last year.
Right.
In that,
and
that
exactly.
Division, and they went all the way to the Stanley Cup finals. So
maybe it's a little, taste of Nashville's own medicine, knocking out the Blackhawks the first round.
Right.
And
moving on to the other side, the Jets and the Wild. I like the Jets in this one, but that's the 2 versus 3 matchup. It's so hard to pick this one because the Wild are good, and the Jets are surprising me this year in the fact that they're in the playoffs, and they're the number 2 seed. But what are your guys' opinions on that?
Almost positive, and we were just talking about this in the break as well. I don't know exactly who I picked, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Jets, just due to the fact that, we were talking about before in the players to watch, they're a hard-hitting team, and I think that that's really what's going to grind the Wild down.
Yeah, I have Winnipeg, again, in 5 games. I don't like my 5 games pick on that one. Just thinking about it, I think Minnesota can give them a little more trouble than I think. It might go 7. I could see it going 7, but I have Winnipeg taking that series.
Moving over to the Pacific Division here in the Western Conference side of the NHL bracket, we have the Knights, the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Los Angeles Kings. Vegas, brand new team.
Yeah.
Do they have a chance in the playoffs here?
I definitely think they do. And I'm speak for, I think everybody up here, that Vegas has a lot of skill, and I think that that's really what's going to help them out. The goaltending, I think, is going to be the biggest part. But also with William Karlsson, my pick, I think that he's going to show up, and you were saying take that. Yeah. And I think that Karlsson is going to do that.
Yeah, a lot of guys. I just have a lot of guys written down here for the Knights. Wild Bill, he has most points ever, 78 points. His highest was 25. Marcia Salt, he's had 75 points this season. His highest was 51 last season. David Perron, highest 66 points this season. 57 and 13-14 season. And then just my last one, Riley Smith, he's had his most points ever since the 13-14 season as well as the 51. But do not count LA out of this one. Vegas can easily lose this series.
Yeah, especially if they get too cocky thinking that they're one of the best teams in the NHL, being an expansion team. Don't start thinking like that, Vegas. This is the playoffs. Anything can happen. But looking now at the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks, Danny, who you like for the San Jose Sharks and the Ducks here? Which one?
Like I said before, I think it's a goaltender matchup, but I'm going to go with Anaheim in this contest. And I think this is one of the games that we could see a few more games played, maybe 6, maybe 7. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Anaheim.
Yeah. I'm with Danny on this one. I think they have a lot of veteran power. I think Anaheim will take this one in 6 games. So just veteran, San Jose, I just don't think they have it this year.
Moving over now to the Eastern Conference of the NHL playoffs. The Atlantic Division, number 1 Lightning versus the Wild Card Devils, and the Bruins versus the Leafs. Danny, who do you like for the Lightning Devils and then Bruins Leafs? Same with you, Steve.
I believe in this one. Pick the Devils. I think that they're just going to turn it on. And, the Lightning are hot still. Lightning hot, whatever. But I think that the Devils are going to come out in this contest and really surprise some people.
Yeah, this is a legit 50-50, chance for either team to win. I have this game going to 7, and this is going to be a fun series. Tampa Bay is hot. New Jersey is hot. It's probably going to be outside, of course, the Pittsburgh-Philly rivalry. Tampa and New Jersey, that is the series to watch. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard-hitting. It's going to be electric.
And then Bruins.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you guys have for that series?
I'm going with Boston in that one. That's a pretty solid pick, in my opinion.
I have Boston as well going 6 games, but Toronto could easily take it to 7.
Definitely. Looking now in the Metro Division now, this is going to go crazy. Yep. The Capitals versus the Jackets, the Penguins versus the Flyers. Guys, who are you picking here?
I'm going with the Caps, and I think that they're going to take on the Pens. And I think that's going to be another matchup that, hockey fans are really going to be, what they said last season, buckle up. I think that's going to be the season that they're going to have to, in the series.
See, this is my complete breakdown of these 2 series. Washington will go 7 games with Columbus. They do that. For some reason, they do that in the first round. Toronto took them for 7 games. They get beat up, and that's why they lose in the second round of the Pittsburgh Penguins, because they're just beat up.
Yeah.
The Penguins just, go off on them, but it could be a different story with Philadelphia and the Penguins. Penguins could easily get beat up as well.
I agree with that one.
Lightning round. Who's making it to the conference finals out of each division?
I think I might have to see I want to say Boston in the Eastern Conference.
Boston.
And I want to say Vegas in the Western Conference. Almost positive.
Yeah, I have Boston beating the Penguins in the Eastern Conference Final. A lot, and hopefully not a sweep like the 2013 season. And I have, let's see here, Vegas and Winnipeg, I believe. Yeah, Vegas and Winnipeg. Vegas taking that one in 7 games.
And looking at the Stanley Cup final predictions, we have the same. Both you guys think Vegas is going to beat Boston, so that's crazy, because if you take a look at mine, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Mine, I think that for the first time in a long time, that the Lightning are going to win the Stanley Cup over the Vegas Golden Knights. I think Vegas being the expansion team this year, I think that's why they're going to struggle a little bit in the playoffs. But we're now going to take a look at our full bracket predictions out of everything real quick. We got like 4 minutes left in the show here. We're going to start with Danny. Danny, your full bracket prediction being thrown up here.
Actually, no. I have the Caps beating the Pens. Okay.
Oh, that's right.
See,
yeah,
that's the one that I was really broken down on, and I think that it was the same reason why you said with the Pens being a little bit hurt by the Flyers series. And then also I predicted that with the Devils. But I don't know. That's a pretty solid bracket in my opinion. I mean, I think that those the teams that really have to show up are going to show up.
Steve, we're going to take a look now at your bracket here, the full bracket. Again, you picked the Vegas Golden Knights, but you have Winnipeg beating the Predators there.
Yeah.
And then
no, I have Winnipeg, beating the Predators. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. Okay,
which is interesting.
Right. I think Winnipeg going to the Western Conference Final. I'm not very comfortable. I'm pretty comfortable with my Eastern picks.
Right.
I think I'm very comfortable with those. But the West, it's I guess the Wild West out there. But that Ducks San Jose series is just confusing the heck out of me. Yeah. Either team could come out of that one. The Vegas Golden Knights, I hate picking them because they're such a good team, but are they really? They should be this team everyone thought they were going to be that just has a bunch of, misfits in one team, but I guess it's a real underdog story. And Nashville could easily lose to Winnipeg. It's such a ridiculous Western Conference right now. In Minnesota, they could easily win. It's all over the place. I am not comfortable at all with my Western picks, but I guess you got to stand with it. I'll die on this hill. So I go Vegas, man, coming out of the West.
We're going to take a look at my bracket real quick. And Colin's bracket, he picks Winnipeg over New Jersey. Yeah. And New Jersey beating Pittsburgh.
He's standing by that.
Right. And
is he? Yeah.
That's it. I like the Winnipeg Jets. I think that's a good pick there. New Jersey Devils, I'm not sure exactly about them either.
I think that's a boring series if it happens.
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now we're going to take a look at my pick there, the last one here. I think Tampa Bay's taking on Vegas. I think Washington, once again, loses in the second round of the Pittsburgh Penguins, as per tradition. So I get my hopes up, and then I just crumble to the ground and cry. But it happens. But I think the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to beat the Penguins and get to the Stanley Cup Final and then win it here. So, guys, great show. We had a lightning round in the last part. Right. But one thing I like to do every year when I host a show is way too early predictions for who's going to win the Stanley Cup, who's going to be in the Stanley Cup, and who's going to win it next year. Colin had the Columbus Blue Jackets in the Stanley Cup Final last year. He had them losing, though, to the Edmonton Oilers. Oh. So a little bit different. Guys, who are your picks to be in the Stanley Cup Final and to win it all next season?
That's tough. I might stick with. I might say the Blue Jackets. But I mean that Western Conference. I don't want to say Vegas.
No.
Might go with Winnipeg. Why not?
Okay.
That's a solid prediction.
Are we only doing the West right now?
No, both.
Okay.
Who do you think's going to be in the Stanley Cup Final? Who's going to win it all?
I'll go Nashville, New Jersey.
Okay.
That's a good one too.
I'm going to go with Winnipeg in the West in the final, and I think I'm going to go with New Jersey as Steve did.
Yeah.
But I think New Jersey's going to win it all.
That's a good pick.
I can see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. I think New Jersey can win that one. Nico Hischier and Taylor Hall.
Yep.
These guys, Kyle Palmieri, if they still have them, they can do some damage.
Yeah,
definitely. So if any of that happens, we'll pull out the old video and we'll show you if anybody got it right after this season. But guys, we had a great show today. The NHL playoffs, they start tomorrow, Wednesday, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are on tomorrow. So check your local listings for, if you want to watch any of the games. They're all on NBC's networks and also the local networks. So AT&T Sports Network in Pittsburgh is going to have the Penguins games as well. But for Danny Beck and Stephen Ruffing, it's been a pleasure being the host for the NHL Playoff Preview Show 2 years in a row. And this is my last time being host on this show. So thank you all for watching. Again, watch the NHL Playoffs. Tweet us at CUTV_PA for your picks for the NHL Playoffs as well using hashtag NHL Playoff Preview Show. For Danny Beck and Stephen Ruffing and everybody in the studio, Gary Smith, our director and producer, I'm Anthony D'Agostino for the last time signing off here on CUTV.